I'm going to start with the recording. Again, I wanted to thank everybody for being here. And I'm going to pass the hosting to Ms. Abraham so she can start her presentation.
Okay. So we are going to be talking about mental health and safety for parents. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about, if you've been a part of the suicide prevention that I have led before, we are going over this again because it's just a very important topic. So I want to start off just by saying like the facts of suicide. Which unfortunately suicide is a leading cause of death for 10 to 24-year-olds in California. And the statistics have shown that it's been rising steadily since 2007. More teenagers and young adults die from suicide than from cancer, heart disease, AIDS, birth defects, stroke, pneumonia, influenza, and chronic lung disease combined. Just so you know, males are 4 times more likely to die by suicide, and females are 3 times more likely to attempt it. And for every death by suicide of a young person, 200 youth attempt. 4 out of 5 teens who attempt suicide have given clear warning signs. So we're going to talk about those warning signs in just a bit. So protective factors. So these are protective factors just for positive mental health. And they include having social supports, feeling connected, being cognitively flexible, which means that they, sorry about that. Sorry, there's a lot of like participants coming in, I'm admitting. Being cognitively flexible just means that like they're willing to bounce back when things get them down, they're resilient. They're willing to obtain treatment. They have strong spiritual or religious ties. They're physically healthy. They participate in extracurricular activities. And being hopeful and having coping strategies creates resilience. Some risk factors for suicide or just for negative mental health are just different factors that can come together kind of like a perfect storm, which could be alcohol or substance abuse, accessibility to means like guns, depression, comorbidity of different mental health disorders, previous suicidal behaviors, a history of trauma or adverse childhood experiences, hopelessness, impulsivity, or a history of non-suicidal self-injury. So the answer to the question, what causes suicide? There's really no one cause of suicide, and kids are not suicidal 24/7. So we have to be vigilant in responding to students at all levels of risk. There are 2 factors that typically come together to propel a kid down a self-destructive path. And this is a chronic factor like a mental illness, depression, substance abuse that acts as kind of the fuel, and then a precipitating event that ignites the fire. So some of those precipitating events that can cause a crisis are loss, like death, divorce, transience, a romantic loss, dignity, victimization or exposure to violence, school crisis, whether it be like disciplinary or academic, a family crisis, like abuse, domestic violence, running away, an argument with parents, exposure to suicide. And so parents are really the gatekeepers. 4 out of 5 youth say something or do something, write or draw something that comes to the attention of an adult or peer. So if your child displays any of these warning signs, I am here to tell you to please like turn to the school if you need help. And then I'm going to give you some other resources too if your student is having a hard time, especially right now because we don't have access to them in the school. So some warning signs to consider of youth suicide are suicidal notes, text messages, social media posts. These could be threats, and they could be communicated directly, like saying, I want to die, I'm going to kill myself. or indirectly, like, no one will miss me, the world would be better without me. It could also be depression or hopelessness, like a loss of energy, lack of enthusiasm for life, risk-taking behaviors like drinking and driving, gunplay, alcohol and substance abuse. Could also be having a plan, a method, or access to various things that they would use to commit suicide, or giving away prized possessions, making final arrangements. So also some other warning signs would be like intense feelings of being a burden, isolation, lack of belonging, lack of connections, sudden changes in their behavior, personality, or friendships, changes to eating or sleeping habits, death or suicidal themes in their writings, readings, and websites. And then elementary school age children might threaten to run into traffic, jump from high places, or scratch or cut their bodies. So it's important to know that you can be a lifesaver, and suicide is preventable. Prevention may be a matter of a caring person with the right knowledge being available in the right place at the right time. A parent is often this person. One caring adult in the life of a child is the greatest protective factor there is, and there are treatments for all the risk factors of youth suicide. Kids are resilient and can definitely get better. Everyone in school plays a role in suicide prevention, so we rely on you for timely referrals. If you're made aware that someone is suicidal, then please reach out and let us know, even if it's a friend of one of your students. And so now I just want to go over some mental health tips, especially as it relates to being at home for these extended period of time. And one of them is to maintain healthy technology boundaries with students, because prevention, education, and digital citizenship are key to positive mental health. Like developing a family plan with input from your children that sets limits, and not suggesting that there be any like dramatic changes with regards to screens, because that might be challenging, but parental modeling is really important, because kids are spending an average of 6.5 hours a day on screens, and this is the average before the quarantine, so I can only imagine what the average time is now. So some tips just for healthy technology boundaries are online activities are not just your child's business. You have every right to be aware of what they're doing online. Discuss online behavior with them and what information is appropriate to share. And demand to know the online communities and your child's password. Be upfront that you will investigate their postings, profiles, website, etc., because you care. So definitely don't be afraid to take charge, especially with social media usage. And then there are numerous programs out there that allow parents to monitor cell phone and internet activity. So I would highly recommend those. Also, just amidst this COVID-19, please realize what you can control. So one of the most frustrating things about COVID-19 is that there's so much about the virus and the limitations on where you go, and like so many things that are out of your control. However, there are some things that you can control, and focusing on that can provide some comfort. So some examples of this would be your mind and body. So like keeping a healthy diet, exercising at home, getting enough sleep, do not drink or smoke excessively, take care of your mental health, maintain self-care and personal hygiene. Within your immediate environment, you can control your house, your bedroom, your closet, your kitchen. Now is the time to clean and get organized, make responsible choices about when to leave the house and only go out if necessary, limit the number of people you come into contact with, work from home if you're able to, and then you can also control what you consume, like don't overdo your news and information intake, get your information from reliable sources like the CDC or the World Health Organization. Watch TV, movies, and videos that make you feel good. Oh my goodness. Sorry, the fire alarm is going off. Sorry about that. Our fire alarm has been going off all afternoon. So also, you can control how you prepare, like keeping 2 to 4 weeks of food on hand, avoid overstocking on supplies that are in high demand, so other people can have enough of the essentials too. If you take medication, get refills and keep them on supply at home if possible. You can also control how you protect yourself, like regularly washing your hands, avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, avoid greeting people by shaking their hands. You guys know this. And then you can also control how you protect others, like stay at home if you're sick, aside from getting medical care, cover your coughs and sneezes, and clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces. Also, many children might be afraid right now. So if you are experiencing the kids in your household being afraid, it's important to go over just unhelpful things to say versus helpful things. So for example, an unhelpful thing to say would be, don't worry, everything is fine, versus a helpful thing like, this is hard, I understand. Let me just let someone in. An unhelpful thing would be like, you have nothing to be afraid of, it's normal. And then a helpful thing would be, it's normal to feel scared. Unhelpful would be, this will be over very soon, versus this might take a while, what can we do to make today a good day? Another example is, instead of saying, I promise we won't get ill, you can say, taking good care of ourselves can help us stay healthy. So those are just some tidbits, but here are some resources for just local resources. These are websites: Know the Signs, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and then there's a teen line that teens can text in order to get any help that they might need. And then here are some local resources. These are really helpful. So if someone is suicidal or in crisis, then the LA County Department of Mental Health will actually come out to your home and support with a suicide assessment. There's also lots of support groups that are online, like this Queer Anxiety Virtual Support, free online support groups that like are meeting over Zoom, and then Optum's emotional health support line. So all of these links are going to be posted at the end here. So if your student or yourself are having a hard time, then you can absolutely get some support. So at this time, I'd like to just open it up to questions before we turn it over to Ms. Woodard. Okay, I think I'm gonna just let her know.
I just sent her a message too. I think she's on.
It makes sense that it was half the time because we didn't have to translate, Carla. I think I was just optimistic.
Right. Also, all the links that that Miss Abraham shared on the presentation, I'm gonna put on Parent Square, okay? So everybody will have access to those, as well as the recording from this meeting, okay?
I'm gonna turn over the host access to you, Carla, so that you can stop the recording.
Okay, all right.